All right, today we've got absolute value. We're gonna need a pencil and maybe something to highlight with today. All right, absolute value, we're just gonna start with the basic definition. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So it's a very basic, very basic definition that we'll just kind of get comfortable with and chat about today. Its symbol looks like a field goal, a football field goal. And my number is going to go in the middle of that. Let's take a peek at how we actually will see some examples. So we might see something like the absolute value of 3, or 3 inside those 2 field goals, or the absolute value of 228, something inside 2 field goals, or the absolute value of negative 86 inside 2 field goals. So the way that we read these is exactly like we just said. So if I put negative 3 inside these 2 field goals, we read negative 3 inside 2 field goals has the absolute value of negative 3, which means, using that definition we talked about earlier, how far away is negative 3 from 0 on a number line? And we can abbreviate number line. Well, how far is negative 3 away from 0 on a number line? 3 spaces, because we're just going to count 1, 2, 3 in order to get to 0. All right, so let's do a couple of example problems and we'll talk about it a little bit more, right? Since we're talking about distance, distance is always going to be positive. For example, if I asked you, how far do you live from school? You would probably get some crazy looks if you said, I live negative 5 blocks away from school. Instead, you would simply just say, I live 5 blocks away from school, right? Even if that's south or west or whatever it is. So for example, this first one, we have the absolute value of negative 5 is 5, because negative 5 is 5 spaces away from 0, right? Even if we were talking about miles, again, you wouldn't say, I live negative 2 miles away from my best friend. You would instead just say, I live 2 miles away from my best friend. So let's look at our next example. The absolute value of 348, well, how far away is 348 from 0? 348 spaces away from 0. So the absolute value of 348 is 348, because 348 is 348 spaces away from 0. And on our last example, is the absolute value, because it's inside 2 field goals, the absolute value of negative 873. Well, how far away is negative 873 from 0? It's 873 spaces away. So the absolute value of negative 873 is 873, because 873, or negative 873, is negative 873. I just totally messed that up. Talking too fast. Let's try that one more time. The absolute value of negative 873 is 873, because negative 873 is 873 spaces from 0. We would just count all of those spaces in between this number until we get to 0, which would take a long time. So as long as we know our basic definition, we're pretty set on that. All right, there is just a quick little intro into absolute value.